Welcome back. With TBOTB2023 finally over, finally it's been dragging out for quite a while now, it's time for the results. Us judges have carefully judged each entry separately to determine the winner of the contest. Before we get into that gritty territory, we'll go over each entry, and I also do want to say, a cliche big thank you to everybody who entered. It does mean a lot to me, those who genuinely want to expand the TTPU, or Battle for Survival Universe, whichever name you prefer, I guess. It's awesome to have a community like-minded that are always keen to also create for this stuff. Alright, now enough heart to heart, time to get nasty and examine entries.
Broken was very decent for the first received entry. It included an interesting and broken character who, like all, had suffered from the apocalypse, which explains the name of the short film. We all seem to agree the opening scene was nicely executed, with an interesting choice of music. The nighttime lighting was the most favourable lighting of the film, of which the campfire and muzzle shots complemented nicely. The next entry submitted was called The Last Stand. This short film was set in Irantisar, an eastern country in the TTPU. This alone was neat, as it is the first ever entry set outside of Kapan, which Kapan is the TTPU's version of America. The animated muzzle effects were done well, and the set was quite good. Although we did agree, the zombie sounds and voiceovers needed a little work, but overall it was a nice action-packed entry. Next, the Reaper Clan. We found this short film to be rather fun and somewhat comical. The characters seemed to be unintentionally comedic, but we found this to boost the entertainment factor. We also did commend the passionate voice acting. The next submission is called Shadows. The story for this one was exceptional. It had a compelling and engaging plot and characters, and the connections made to the Battle of the Animators was well accomplished, and in general the fact that it was set before the apocalypse was interesting. The main constructive criticism we had was the lack of variety in voice actors, but overall, solid entry, and it was neat to have it set in Singland, the TTPU's equivalent to England.
The next entry was actually unnamed, but this one was very well animated. It's slow paced but smooth. The cinematic feel was done well, which lighting and set design assisted with that. The story seemed unexplained but had something going for it, and it had a very interesting concept, but we all did agree that swearing was very unnecessary and felt like an odd add-on that had little sense for inclusion. Moving forward is No Escape. The set design in this was great and quite rich, especially the shots outside which showed damaged buildings and greenery. It really sold the idea of the apocalypse occurring. The animation was quite commendable, however we did agree that the music didn't really match the situation, at least at the end, but otherwise a great short animation that was fun to watch. Next in line is The Forgotten. The character designs were well crafted in this, and the various voice actors added to that. It had a quite interesting story of desperation that we found quite good, but we did dislike the use of the swear words as it felt unnecessary. But apart from that, the entry was a nice inclusion. Guardians of the Soul was an incredible entry which offered much enjoyment and viewer engagement. It supplied us with an amazing story and characters, going with a flashback story type deal, which was a unique style of storytelling. It used many animation techniques like first person POVs, rain and more. Overall, a very solid entry.
Next is Revenge. This entry was fantastic and showcased perfect pacing with flawless action sequences. The dialogue was perfect and the set design was done with great attention to detail. Altogether, an amazing submission, which the action can definitely be bragged about. Next up is Time Crunch. This one was a very short but well-crafted submission. There wasn't enough time to expand on the characters or form a proper story, but considering how short it was, the story that was implemented worked. Besides that, it was a decent little entry with some neat character designs. This next submission is called Brothers. This showed us the pure desperation during the time of the outbreak and followed two brothers trying to enter a safe zone like other civilians. But in the end, combat between survivors caused zombies to intervene, which led to their deaths. We enjoyed the building up of the story, the sense of the panic throughout this film, as well as the action. Overall, very, very well done. This submission is called Crew 65. This was serious when needed to be, and it had a good share of unintentional comical behavior from the characters. Character designs were strange, but unique, and the plot had something going on for it. Overall, it was a fun bundle of entertainment.
Second to last submission was Live on Mars. This one didn't provide any context or plot, but we did at least agree it had an interesting aesthetic red and orange lighting, as well as a cool rocky set design which blended well with the lighting setup. And finally, the last entry was called Brother Warfare. This one had a creative brother rivalry conflict serving as its plot. It was comedic at points, but had good tension with high stakes. Altogether, it was a wholesome, entertaining watch.
Now, let us move on to the canon confirmed entries. Before we move ahead, I just want to say they were almost all considered this time round, which is really awesome to see, but only 3 have been accepted into canon. As I mentioned, almost all were considered, but lots had different aspects that altered the final decision. But who knows, maybe my opinion will change later down the road. I also have decided to create a new extended universe or legends playlist. This way, even if it's not actual canon, at least there's still a place to view all the other non-canon content to the TTPU and edits and that kind of thing. I also want to say before we move forward, if you enjoy the Battle for Survival series and the channel in general, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. My subscriber count has kind of been declining for the past year because of all the lack of Among Us content. Anyway, now for the canon accepted entries. The first awarded entry goes to Broken by the Homeschool Jedi. The next goes to Guardian of Souls by Dr. Jar Jar Productions. Like Jar Jar Binks. And the final canonized entry goes to Revenge by Benno Productions. These 3 will be added to the TTPU playlist on the channel. Congratulations to you 3. Since we've covered that section, we can finally move on to the places of the contest. Third place of TBOTB2023 goes to Slider28 with his unnamed entry. Although not canon, he created an amazing ominous experience with a somewhat confusing story, but an intriguing one that left you wanting more. The animation was stylish but very smooth. Set design helped create the dark atmosphere, especially the corridor, which was fantastic. Second place of TBOTB 2023 goes to Dr. Jar Jar Productions with his entry The Guardian of Souls. I was blown away with how awesome this was. The story was very intriguing and animation was amazing with many different experimental techniques used like rain and water, but especially those fantastic first-person POVs. Man, just overall something that would be criminal to not add into the TTPU. Very exceptionally good. First place of TBOTB 2023 goes to Benno Productions. Yes, again, I know. But with the points added up, he got the biggest score. But a deserved victory because this was an incredible flawless action animation with top tier pacing and atmosphere. The dialogue was well crafted and the flow of the action looked like it was ripped straight from a cinematic movie. The set design was also top notch, and what was also awesome was the accurate figures and reuse of characters from the Battle for Survival, which, although bold, each one was used perfectly, with the addition of never before seen characters too, of course. Overall, a perfect action short film which blended perfectly with the Battle for Survival. So you 3 worthy winners will receive your prizes. Now let's discuss the honourable mentions, basically the 3 runners-up in order from 4th to 6th. The first goes to Time Crunch by Friendly Lad. This entry was very short but fit well, and had a simple apocalyptic vibe. And had a simple apocalyptic survival vibe. The animation was good and the story had something but didn't quite go further as it seemed like a shortened version of what could have been a pretty decent story. However, it's still ranked 4th for us judges, so overall a nice slice of animation. The second goes to Broken by the Homeschool Jedi. This was a very nice character-driven story. I really enjoyed how it explored the impacts of the apocalypse on a family and group. Overall, it was a really decent short film that felt like it belonged in the TTPU. The last goes to Shadows by Adrian KSHD. I absolutely loved the expanse and boldness of his storytelling in this one. Although sometimes confusing, it was incredibly interesting to see where it was going, and how corrupt the world was before the outbreak. I also liked how it made a connection to the Battle of the Animators. It was small, but very nice. Now a massive thank you to all that dedicated time and energy to create these awesome stories and animations for the contest. Really appreciate you all, especially you lot that have come back time after time to create your TTPU stories. This may very well be the last TBOTB contest, forever or for a while. I'll be very surprised if one goes underway next year. This is due to real life situations, but anyway, it's been amazing seeing the TTPU grow. And to be honest, even though it's kind of sad to say, I'll be surprised if the battle for survival continues, at least for now. It may continue in the future, but it might be quite a while away, like a year or something like that. I just don't know at this point in time. So technically this means episode 6 may or may not be the last episode of the series, but do keep in mind this will definitely be the best episode of the series, so it will go out with a banger if this is to be the last episode. Though I have got plans for the future of the series and I would like to continue it, but it really depends on my standpoint for the future. But either way, if it's continued or if it isn't, it's always important to remember that there is other collaborations in the TTPU going on, like Beno Productions' Omnipresence, and even possibly more collaborations and spin-off series in the works. But for now, I guess we'll see how it turns out. I don't have much else to say, so thanks to all who've entered and see you next time. Hopefully at the episode 6 premiere though, whenever that gets up. Either way, it will be super ridiculously cool, so get hyped for it. I'm very happy to be doing a multiverse collaboration with Twisted Bricks and his Lego Zombie universe. You won't want to miss it. It's been a long time coming, like close to 2 years I think. Anyway, this is dragging out, so see you later, and of course, most importantly, God bless.